Welcome to In Her Voice, a podcast created for women who listen to and live by their deepest wisdom, their inner voice. This was made for you, the woman who feels pulled to more, to lead, to create, to dream, and to be a world changer. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am an inner voice coach. Join me here each week as we explore what it means to reach for your inspired potential, all while honoring your worthiness each and every day. Hello, this is Kelly, and you are listening to In Her Voice. Thank you for being here. It's so good. I was going to say it's so good to hear from you, but maybe I should say it's so good to be heard by you. That would be a better way to do it. I have a super fun episode for you today. I'm sitting down with Kelsey Abbott, who might be one of my new best friends. I love her so much. And we are talking about how to turn what you might perceive as a weakness into a strength. And, I think that common sort of like, not common knowledge, but what people tell you to do is work on your weaknesses and make them better and, focus on your strengths. And I feel that sometimes we get mixed messages about what is a weakness and what is a strength. And sometimes what we've been told is a weakness could very well be our strongest thing. And Kelsey and I dig into this from the perspective of human design, which I just dig so much. If you like Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or any sort of personality type testing, you are going to fall in love with human design. Let me tell you a little bit about Kelsey. Kelsey Abbott is an intuitive human design reader, a certified professional coach, instigator of joy, and the host of the Find Your Awesome podcast. She helps spiritual adventurers remember who they are and why they're here so they amplify their impact and send ripples of light across the planet, all with ease, joy, flow, magic, and miracles. She believes that the universe wants us to be sparkly AF, and that joy is our natural state. When Kelsey isn't playing in her business, she's bringing curiosity, play, and joy to triathlon, a sport she races as an elite amateur. After a decade in Maine and 16 months of traveling around the U.S. in a small camper, Kelsey now lives in Sarasota, Florida with her husband. In case you haven't guessed, Kelsey is a manifesting generator, living her design and following the joy. You are going to love her as much as me. Let's get right to it with Kelsey Abbott. Well, Kelsey Abbott, welcome to In Her Voice. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Kelly Covert, it is so exciting to be here.
I know. Well, and we've already talked for 10 minutes already before we started recording, because the second that I looked at your website, I thought to myself, well, this is going to be a fun interview. And I can't wait to talk about turning weaknesses into strengths, because I've really been leaning into this idea this year in particular. And the way that we're going to sort of come through it is by human design, because that's your specialty, right?
Yeah.
As a human design reader.
It is. And I want to know what your experiment has been like so far.
It has been challenging. It's really a paradigm shift, because I'm taking all of these little parts of myself that I used to judge, and think was wrong with me, or think that I needed to improve. And now I'm leaning into them. I'm not only saying it's okay, I'm saying this is what I'm about. And it's actually quite challenging to do that, because the thought patterns take longer to change than the decision to change takes.
Of course.
And but I've really been loving it. And one of my daily practices is I write what I call worthiness reminders. And these are just reminders to myself of who I am. And I write them every day, the same ones, and they sort of shift and change. But one that has been constant for me since the beginning of the year is I take untraditional paths. Instead of I don't follow through. Like that used to be like, I used to feel like I needed to follow through better. And if I could just follow through. And after learning more about my human design type, which is manifesting generator, I realized like, oh no, that's what I was created for.
Yeah, we're the instigators.
Yeah. So I don't even know where to begin. I think that if I'll talk to my audience now, if you're listening to this and you don't know what human design is, I want you to go back and I want you to listen to the episode with Lori Crawford. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes because that is sort of a overview to what human design is. So for our purposes today, Kelsey, I think let's just talk about how we can use human design as a tool to love ourselves more. Can we do that?
Yes, please. This is my favorite topic in the world.
Excellent. So where should we start? I'll let you decide.
Okay, so human design, just like my little snapshot of how I describe it is your little baby soul got called to Earth School. I got so excited because Earth School gets to have this opportunity to experience this wild and wacky life in a human body. And so before it decided how you're going to change the world because each one of us is here to change the world in our own unique way.
Yes.
And then it chose all the gifts you were going to need in order to be who you're supposed to be and do what you're supposed to do while you're here in Earth School. And then all of that information is captured in your soul blueprint, otherwise known as your human design chart. So then we're born, day 1, we know all of this. Day 2, we've forgotten it all. And then the conditioning starts. People start telling us how we're supposed to maneuver through life, how we're supposed to win at life. And then one day we stumble upon human design and we start remembering it all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just so people understand how to find out what their type is, how would one go about doing that?
So you need to know your birthday, birth date, birth time, and we do want it to be exact, which will hopefully be on your birth certificate. If not, maybe check with your mom, your baby book, and worst case scenario, it's not the worst case scenario at all, but contact like the public records department in the city where you were born. Mm-hmm. And you need to know where you were born. And the place is just for time zone purposes. So if you were born in some teeny tiny place that doesn't show up in the system, don't worry about it. We'll just choose someplace else that is in the same time zone. And you can get your chart for free on my website, kelseyabbott.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to have links to anything that we talk about today. That's a link I'm going to put in the show notes. So if you want to pause and go find out what type you are or whatever, that's great. But really, this isn't so much today. We're not going to be talking about the specific types, but we're going to be talking more about how we can understand ourselves more deeply. And how does human design show us that?
So human design shows us all sorts of things including whether we're built for consistency or not, if we're here for this like deep, intense multi-beam focus or not, if we are here to be specific manifestors or non-specific manifestors, or just strategic or not strategic, how we process emotions, how we process intuition, like how grounded we are in our bodies, and if we're designed for like constant movement. Mm-hmm. It shows us everything. It shows us how our minds work, how we best digest. It shows us a whole bunch of gifts. Like, for instance, maybe you have an amplified and dramatic voice. Maybe you have the gift of the Midas touch, which is a gift where if you have this, then everyone who comes into your energy, after they leave your energy, good things are coming to them. Mm. There are so many different possibilities. Like every single being on this planet is unique. And that is the beauty of human design. It reminds us that we're all unique. In fact, it reminds us that we're not a planet of 8 billion separate humans. We're a planet of one human shattered into 8 billion separate pieces. And each one of those pieces is here to own and share our gifts. And when we do that, we fit together and we rise.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this, like this coming together of all of the pieces. And it makes so much sense that I'm not going to be the same as you, and you're not going to be the same as your sister or your husband or your friend or your neighbor, but that we all need each other to work together for the greater good. Okay, so we have discovered in our, actually just in, like I think our souls knew already, that we're both manifesting generators. And so I want to have this conversation sort of from that perspective, knowing as you listen, if you're not a manifesting generator, the things that we're talking about still apply to you in your own unique way. So tell us just a little bit about the amazingness of manifesting generators.
Yeah. So all of us actually have all of the 5 energy types within us, and then we just have one dominant type. So for you and me, our dominant type is manifesting generator. So even if you're a reflector, you might hear us talking about being manifesting generators, or MGs, as I'm gonna use from now on, and be like, oh my God, that's so me. And there are so many different things in your chart that may make this feel like you, even if your dominant energy type isn't manifesting generator. But MGs, we are here to play. We're here to follow the joy, while the rest of society says we're supposed to go from A to B to C to D. We say we go from A to 61 to hippopotamus to yellow. And that is our natural flow.
Yes. Well, tell us about how that has sort of come to be in your own life, because you have a really interesting story in that regard.
Yeah, so I studied psychology and art history. I majored in psychology and art history and minored in biology in college. And then I went on to study dolphin cognition and behavior and health. Briefly thought about vet school, because when I went to the career counseling center in college, they were like, do you want to be a teacher? No. Do you want to go into financial advising? Oh, hell no. Do you want to be a lawyer? No. Do you want to go to med school? No. Oh, okay, then vet school. And I was like, okay. I did actually do a vet internship, and that was a no. Mm-hmm. I could never euthanize an animal. Okay, so
yeah, that would be really hard.
So I bounced around studying dolphins, and then let's see, from there, then I studied coral reef fish in Barbados. Then I went to grad school and studied killer whales. So I'm on this marine science track, and I worked for like an NGO and worked for the federal government, got offered a huge promotion, quit that job because that was a hell no for me. It was a big fat, not this. I'm not made to be in a cage, AKA a cubicle. And then I started science writing. And on the side, I was always coaching swimming because I grew up as a swimmer. So I'm coaching swimming, writing about science. And by science writing, I mean I took scientific papers and made them fun and funny and accessible to everyone. So I'm science writing, and coaching swimming evolves into teaching group fitness, personal training, coaching triathlon, and there might be something else in there. So I'm doing all of this at the same time. Then one day I saw on Facebook, this is as science writing is dying down. Funding for science writing is getting lower and lower and lower. And in fact, I was offered 2 gigs that I was really excited about when it comes to science writing. And both these organizations reached out to me, and they both said, this was back to back, we're going to get you the contract in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, they reached out and said, I am so sorry. All of our funding just got cut. But the universe is so sassy, because at the exact same time, I saw a post on Facebook with somebody saying, I need to do a few more client sessions to get my life coaching certification. And I reached out to her right away and said, what is life coaching? Where are you getting certified? Just tell me everything. And then I was enrolled in coaching school like a week later. And I'm still I was still coaching triathletes at that time. And then I started my coaching business, started the podcast. Then through the podcast, I learned about human design. And then I fell all the way down that rabbit hole. And now here I am. Intuitive human design reader, certified professional coach, instigator of joy, and host of the Find Your Awesome podcast.
I love it. And, you know, who knows what the next iteration will be, right?
Yeah. I had no idea human design existed before one podcast guest said just kind of offhand,
Yeah.
Have you heard of human design?
Yeah. Well, so if someone were to have a human design reading with you, because this is one of your services that you offer, what would that be like?
It's a session where I help people remember who they are. It's like I said, it's that blueprint. So we go through how they are designed to flow through life with ease. So many of us are on and off the struggle bus. Like we have a fast pass to the struggle bus. We just commute on it daily, and we don't have to do that. We get to flow through life with ease. And then we look at all the things that are your unique gifts. And we look at the ways that, you know, maybe, oh, look, where are you struggling in your life? Oh, maybe you're struggling because that is exactly the opposite of how you were designed to flow.
Yes.
This is what human design shows us. So there are so many ways into this personal development space. So many wonderful ways. And then there are a bunch of ways that really focus on our wounds and what's wrong with us. And human design doesn't do that. We remind people of their light. We show them their magic. We remind them of who they are.
I love that so much. So I'm going to share my own experience. I had a human design reading, not with you, although maybe I need to do that too, because I feel like that would be super fun. And I had one in January, and I had been aware of human design and my own type for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years, but I had not really dug in. And so I was feeling pulled to do that. And so I had a reading, and I felt like my mind was blown open, you know, like that I learned things about myself that felt so right. Like you said, as if my body had known, and my body did know the whole time that was true. And I, like you, have done many things in my life. You know, I have 2 degrees in music performance, and I still do play flute. I've taught college flute. I've taught high school. I've taught, you know, little kids. I'm not teaching anymore because it just wasn't lighting me up anymore. And I've, you know, done triathlons. I've done triathlon coaching. I was all in for, you know, when my kids were little, as just like being like full on mom. And now I play with a symphony, and I work with a symphony, and I have my podcast, and I do my coaching, my inner voice coaching. And I, for a long time, thought something's wrong with me, that I can't settle down, that I can't just pick one thing, that I've never had a quote unquote real job. And by real job, I meant like a job that looks the same every single day, that you go to an office, that you sit down, that you get like a fat paycheck for. And I thought, like, what's wrong with me that I can't do this, that I can't seem to follow through with anything, that I can't seem to like figure out what I'm meant to be here for. And when I had my human design reading, I realized, oh, actually, this is exactly what I'm meant to be here for. This is exactly who I am, and that I'm not broken, and that nothing is wrong with me. And I started using as my daily reminder, I take untraditional paths.
Yeah, we carve our own paths. I say we make fresh tracks in the snow.
Yes.
Which was frustrating. I don't know if you had this experience, Kelly, but as a kid, I was very much aware of the fact that I was carving my own path, and felt very much like everyone else had some sort of set of directions they were following. And so I'd get frustrated every once in a while, and I'd be like, fine, I'm going to do it the way everyone else is doing it. And I'd last like 2 hours, and I'd be like, oh, okay, never mind. I'll do it my way.
That was not my experience because I grew up in a house where being good was the most important thing. And how my childhood felt was like that. If I just try hard enough, I can be good in the way that like everybody wants me to be good. And so I was constantly trying to force myself into like this box that I didn't feel like I fit into. And I automatically made that mean that I was bad, because if I can't be good the way everyone wants me to be good, then I must be bad. But I didn't want anybody to know that I was bad. So I just would like pretend. And if you pretend long enough, it starts to feel real. And it's taken me much of my adult life, I think, to sort of unwind all of that and come back to who I was. And that was never someone who was bad. It just was someone who didn't fit into like what I thought I was supposed to fit into.
In fact, it was someone who was super, super sparkly and designed to sparkle. What you're describing is so common for MGs because our energy is big, and that scares people because we pivot a lot or bounce a lot. That scares people because we flow faster than other people. That scares them. And we just want other people to like us, like all humans. So we dull our sparkle. We try to follow the rules. But what happens when you put an MG in a cage is you dull their sparkle, and no one wins, because the sparkle of a manifesting generator is designed to elevate the world. So when an MG is doing what lights them up, then they become super sparkly, and their sparkle elevates the world. And I don't want to say that an MG can't be lit up by an office job. An MG can very much be lit up by an office job. Everyone is lit up by different things. That's the magic of it all.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. And I'm glad that you said that, because there may be someone out there who's like, well, I have a real job and I'm just fine. Of course you are. And, you know, that's the beauty of it, right? Is that we can all tap into these pieces of us that maybe once we were trying to avoid or shun or just like shut down.
Yeah.
And that feels really powerful, but also it can be really scary. And that's my question to you, is like, how, when you start to see what you used to think was a weakness, and you think, okay, well, I'm going to say it's not a weakness anymore. I'm really going to own it. I'm going to lean into it. How do you do it? I mean, like, what are the steps that you can take to start to shift the thoughts and the ways of being that you've had for so long?
So this is stuff that our souls already know. We just have to get our human on board. So I do it like an experiment. Okay, so supposedly I'm really good at, well, let's just say, so my sun personality gate, which is our, it's 70% of our personality. I tell people, when you don't know what to do, lean into this. Mine is to be intuitive about the future for other people. And I shut my intuition down when I was a little kid, because it was scary. It was weird. No one could explain it to me. So yeah, I absolutely positively shut that down. And then after I became a certified professional coach and met a whole lot of people in this personal development space, people started saying to me like, Kelsey, you're super intuitive. And I was like, nah. And then I would go to like tarot readers or have intuitive readings for people, and I would always be kind of like a little disappointed because they wouldn't tell me anything I didn't already know. And they were like, yeah, that's because you can do this too. So I was just starting to open up to that. And I think I had gotten like 80% there. And then I learned human design and learned to understand my human design. And was like, oh, universe, you're so sassy. So, okay, fine. I actually laughed out loud when I first learned this. So in this case, I was actually doing the experiment ahead of time. But now, oh my goodness, Kelly, I'm still learning this like on a regular basis. Like hearing from somebody else who says that they're intuitive about something, and they'll tell me something about myself that just doesn't resonate at all. And for me, the truth, when something is true, it tumbles into my body. When it's not, it'll swirl around in my brain and just cause suffering. So someone will tell me something, it'll swirl around in my brain, make me miserable, feel completely unaligned, and it eventually I have to get to the point of, right, because Kelsey, you can do this, because your gift, you are here to be intuitive. So for me, it's a constant practice, like bumping up against, it's like bumping up against the bumpers in a bowling lane. Like a bump up against it, and I'm like, oh, right, I'm here to be intuitive. Get back in the lane.
Yeah. Well, and what I hear you saying is just that the thoughts pop up. And I feel like I say this on almost every podcast. My listeners might get tired of hearing me say it, but I think it needs to be said again and again and again. The old thoughts are not going to go away. But we can now use them as a reminder. Oh, right. Like, I have this thought. I am not that thought. I can choose. I can let myself get bumped back into my lane. Again, I can use it as a reminder that, I can lean into this, that there's nothing wrong with me. And just the practice of doing that is in of itself powerful. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And those old thoughts, they might get quieter and we become more aware. So we're hearing the old thoughts and we're hearing the new thoughts, and we make a conscious decision over which one we want to listen to. And that's the practice. It's like, being in a fork in the road and being like, oh, I could go on this super well-paved path that I've been taking for 20, 30, however many years. I know that route so well. It's so easy. Yes, it causes me so much suffering. Or I could go on this like rocky dirt path that's super windy and hilly, and I'm not so sure about it, but I know it's actually, even though it's not well paved, even though I'm not as familiar with it, I know it's going to have so much more ease. But let's take that to a triathlon example, actually. So it's like when you're riding your bike and you are working really, really hard, you are working hard, the sweat is pouring off you, you're breathing heavy, your heart rate is high, and there's an ease to it. You feel like you're playing, you're having fun. That's the type of ease I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the ease that people think, like when we say ease or easy, that means sitting on the couch and doing nothing. But the thing is, no one is really designed for that. Doesn't bring anyone joy for long periods of time. So it's experiencing the ease that comes with following what our soul already picked out for us and being brave enough to give it a try, and then try it again, and then try it again. And then you know what? If you try it a bunch of times and it just doesn't feel right for you, well, then take a break from trying. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe your birth time is wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with the system. It's possible.
Well, and okay, so let's talk about this, because I feel like people have this, there's this feeling about quitting, like that you shouldn't quit, that if you're a quitter, that you're not following through, if you would just try, you hear the story about like the person, in the cave, in the mine, and they're mining away and they don't find any gold, and then they give up, and then the next person comes in and they find gold the next day, and you just think, well, I just can't quit. So how do we reframe that?
I personally love quitting. I'm a huge fan of quitting stuff that doesn't serve us.
Tell me more about this.
Okay. I quit my job when I was offered a huge promotion, and I'll tell you a little more about that. So I was working for the federal government as a marine biologist. I was working in Washington, D.C., and my job involved sitting in a cubicle. I was issuing permits to researchers who were studying protected species and marine mammals. And so I would assess their research and write like environmental impact statements, and determine what we would allow them to do in their research. Essentially, I was writing what I call government-ese. I wrote, it didn't make any sense. It was like using words that don't mean anything. Mm-hmm. And it felt like busy work, and it did not light me up. And then one day, I stumbled across this book, What Color is Your Parachute?, which is all about Myers-Briggs types. Mm-hmm. And learned that I'm an ENFP. And read about that type, and read that I was very much not designed to do the work I was doing at the time, and read about all the other types, and read that they were very much designed to do what we were doing. And then I was sitting at a staff meeting one day, and I just looked around the room and I was like, oh my goodness, they all love this. Oh, okay, they can have it.
Right.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
We don't all need to be doing the same job.
Well, and our world is not going to run well if we're all doing the same job.
No, then who's going to do the other jobs?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And, it's this idea that if we're trying so hard to fit into this mold of what we think is good and right, of like how humans should be, for example, not ever quitting, then what are we missing out on? Like, we could be missing out on so much.
Yes. I always say, like, quit the stuff that isn't serving you. Quit the energy leaks, because you are here to share your gifts with the world. So anything that you are doing that is preventing you from sharing your gifts and sharing your light and sharing your sparkle, it's got to go.
Yeah.
The world needs you to let that stuff go so you can shine brighter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it so much. I want to shift gears a little bit, but I think this is still related. And that is one of the areas that you share about is your own experience with ADHD. And I think that if anyone here who's listening, and I know a lot of people, particularly entrepreneurs, who either have self-diagnosed themselves with ADHD or have been officially diagnosed, and I am one of those people, you see it as like, oh, here's another thing that's wrong with me. Here's another thing that is a weakness. Can we talk about, these diagnoses? And it's not just limited to ADHD. It could be, you could be on the spectrum. There's so many things that we automatically assume are a negative thing because it's an official diagnosis, but it can really be the secret to who you are and who you are meant to be. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. What if we, instead of diagnosing people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, we diagnose them with being super sparkly? And that was your official diagnosis.
I already gave myself that diagnosis like long ago. And it's so funny that you use that word, Kelsey, because I use that word and have used it often to describe the people that I am attracted to. And I don't just mean romantically. I mean like the people that I want to spend time with. I call them sparkly people. Mm-hmm. And I think that these are the people who have really tapped into like who they are. Like they're really owning all of it, right?
Yes.
Yes. So if I am sparkly, AKA I've been diagnosed with ADHD, how do I embrace that? How do I own it? How do I lean into it?
So one of the things, the most recent thing that has helped me even more, I was diagnosed with ADHD in college. Well, officially. I think I was kind of diagnosed in first grade. Like they just basically told my parents I had a whole bunch of learning disabilities. And told them I'd never go to college or any of that.
Oh, interesting.
So then I was diagnosed in college because I did go to college and I did go to graduate school and I am a functioning human. Mm-hmm. But human design has shown me, like, I can find all the places in my chart that point to ADHD. One, being a manifesting generator. We're here to follow the joy. We're here to bounce. We are not here for boxes or labels. We're not going to follow that same path that everyone else has followed. We've already covered that. Mm-hmm. Then I have a defined route. I'm designed to move. I am constantly moving. My mom used to be like, Kelsey, stop fidgeting. Guess what? Totally made for it. I'm going to keep fidgeting. I'm going to keep moving some part of my body pretty much all the time. I've got the gift of unique insights and opinions. And this means that I have things that will come to me that are a total duh to me, but they blow people's minds. It's just a unique way of seeing the world. Mm-hmm. And then I have this gift of having my very own rhythms to my body. So, my body doesn't behave. My body has not read a textbook on how bodies are supposed to behave, like what time they're supposed to do things. My body does its own thing. All of those things together, boom, ADHD.
This is so fascinating to me because another part of my intention for this year has been to honor my energy and flow, which has also required me to pay attention to my restlessness. Like, I feel like I have a lot of restlessness in me. And what I've discovered is that I really need to move quite a bit throughout the day in order for like my mind to be clear, in order for like me to be able to create and think the way I need to create. And I've never really thought of myself as like hyperactive. Like I don't think of that, but I do need to move, and I need it even to be able to sleep at night. Like if I haven't used up my energy, I struggle going to sleep. And on days that I am not able to work out or I'm not able to move my body in a way, I get just like that restless feeling.
Yeah, I bought some juggling balls last year. So when I'm in the off season for triathlon, I'll still have workouts, but they're boring. Let's go for an easy run, go for an easy ride. And I have reached out to my coach in the past and been like, my business is struggling or I feel like it is because I have no ideas right now because I need some intervals. I need to spice it up a bit. Mm-hmm. And last summer I retired from social media in 2020.
Yeah, well, that's a whole, like, I feel like we have to have like an entire other interview to talk about that.
Okay, we can absolutely talk about that. I'm very passionate about it. So in retiring from social media, I was like, okay, on these rest weeks, I think what I've been doing is being like, oh, okay, I'll write a whole bunch of posts for social media. I'll be super engaged on social media. And then once I'd retired, I was like, actually, I woke up one morning at like 5 a.m. and my first thing that came into my mind is I need to buy juggling balls. And so I went on Amazon, and I have this hard rule of no internet other than using a meditation app usually before like 10 a.m. Uh-huh. But I went on Amazon at like 7 a.m. and ordered myself some juggling balls and then taught myself how to juggle. And this is what I do if I have a rest day, a day off from training, and I'm just like feeling like I need to move my body in some way, or if I have like back-to-back calls, which I don't do to myself because I can't handle it. Uh-huh. But if for some reason I had to sit in a chair for a long time, I eventually get up during one of those calls and just start juggling.
Oh, that's hysterical. I want to be on a Zoom call with you. You're like everyone's favorite Zoom person. Don't mind me. I just need to juggle. Well, and it's interesting that you say that about social media, like that you noticed it when you retired, because what I notice when I'm feeling most restless, what I'm doing often is like scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah.
And when I'm moving, and I don't do triathlon anymore. A lot of my listeners know I used to do it a lot. I have a Peloton bike, so I ride almost every day on the Peloton. But lately, yoga has been my go-to for movement, and it's a super gentle movement. It doesn't have to be for me like hard or intense. I just need something. Yes. I have to like move. It's almost like my ideas flow through my body moving. And that's really become part of my own practice. And I don't know that I would have sort of like related that to the ADHD actually without this conversation. Like even as we're talking, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. I was just sort of thinking of it as my flow and energy, but it's all the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've told people before, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to create this course. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but I'm going to go for a bike ride. So it'll all come through then.
Yep. Mm-hmm. A lot of mine comes through when I'm walking.
Yeah.
Good thing that I have my dog to keep me company on these long walks.
Do you tell your dog all about it?
No, I don't. We talk about different things. Like why did you just have to run through that muddy puddle and stuff like that. But, if I have my phone with me, I keep, voice notes for myself because my brain moves so fast that sometimes I forget. And that used to stress me out. Like I used to hold on to things like so tightly because I was afraid I was going to forget because it had happened to me before.
Yes.
And so now I've created ways to keep in that flow and still not lose the things that are flowing through me at the same time. And that feels really good too.
Yeah, and that's, again, part of being an MG and our flow being so fast. I've come in from rides sometimes. My husband asked me how the ride was, and I'm like, good. I'm trying to hold on to this. Like, I'll take a super fast shower and then sit down on my computer and just be like the words just need to pour out of me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Well, so what I hope to come out of this interview is that everyone who's listening, first of all, can start to look at what they think are their weaknesses in a completely new and revolutionary way that will really be transformational. And I think that if you are listening right now and you're feeling that way and you want to know more, Kelsey, what is a way that people can work with you that they can really dig into this even more?
A light leader amplification. So I coach light leaders who are people who are here to raise the world. Some of us just have this deep knowing that we are here to change the world and to spread love and light all over the planet. And I help these people get into alignment, all the way into alignment, clear all the conditioning that keeps them from being as impactful as possible and experiencing as much ease as possible. And we amplify their light. But Kelly, I really wanted to say, I can't even think of a weakness that a human being could have, except like being a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. If you're a jerk and you know you're a jerk, stop being a jerk. Just knock it off.
Uh-huh. I love that so much. Like that feels really powerful to me. That feels so inspiring. And what I'm going to encourage people to do is to shoot me an email. And do you want to share your email address too? Maybe they'll shoot it to both of us and say, this is the weakness that I'm turning into a strength.
Yes,
because
please.
I really want this to be about like practical application. Like this is not just theoretical. This is not just something that you listen to and then you think, oh, that's interesting. And then you move on to the next thing. This is something that when you embrace it, it changes the way you think about who you are. Mm-hmm. So what's your email, Kelsey?
Kelsey at find-your-awesome.com.
Perfect. I'm going to put a link in the show notes, and my email is kelly@kellycovert.com. So all of you who are listening, we challenge you to choose the weakness that you're going to reframe, that you're going to change, that you're going to find the courage to dig into and not just accept it, but own it and like lean into it and find your sparkle in that way. This is so good, Kelsey.
I love this so much. I'm so excited. Send those
me
emails.
Too.
Send
yes,
them now, please.
I can't wait. I can't wait to read them. So I don't want to leave without my very favorite question, and that is, in your life, what is your inner voice, your intuition, I think is what you call it. What is she saying to you these days?
So you told me ahead of time that you were going to ask this, and what came through then is, I never prepare for questions. I'm always like, whatever's coming through comes through. But of course, an answer came through right away, and it's coming through again, which is just, The magic is in you. You are the wand. Trust, Kelsey. Trust your own alignment. Trust your own intuition.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Kelsey, you're not on social media. So if people want to find you, they need to go to your website, which is the find-your-awesome.com, correct?
It's also kelseyabbott.com.
Kelsey, which is even easier.
They're the same.
I'll link to that so you don't even have to remember. You can just click right on your podcast app, whatever you're listening to, the link will be there. And learn more about Kelsey and how to connect with her and lean into what she's offering, because it's some really great stuff. Kelsey, this was so fun. I'm going to have you back for sure to talk about your retirement from social media, because I think we need to know about that. And I am so grateful for your joy and your wisdom and your inspiration today.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you for playing with me. This has been magical.
One of the things that I love about this idea of leaning into what you might have perceived before as a weakness and turn that into a strength is that it makes things so fun and it makes things so much easier. And it gives us permission to be who we want to be. And, you know, so much about life is hard. Why must we make it harder, right? I love Kelsey. I actually did a human design reading with her, and I'm still thinking about it, still learning from it, still leaning into my own strengths even more. And that is part of the reason why there haven't been as many podcast episodes, because I've had a lot going on, and it felt easier just to say not this week. And I thank you for bearing with me and still continuing to be here with me when I do have an episode. I believe that things will get a little bit more regular from here going on out, and I'm looking forward to that. I want you to remember each and every day that you are extraordinary. You have been made special and like yourself for a reason. And when you deny that, you deny everyone access to that. Remember this: you are worthy.